would get rid of it. A lot of times what they would do is they would literally sprinkle yeast through their house and then sweep it all out to make sure they got rid of the yeast. John chapter 2, it's preparation for Passover, so it's probably Feast of Unleavened Bread. And Jesus walks in and he sees some yeast. What's the yeast that he sees? When he walks into the temple, the very first place that you would walk into is the temple courts. In the temple courts, it kind of was like a marketplace. And here's several reasons why. Jerusalem may have been hundreds, if not thousands of miles away from you as the common, ordinary Jew. You would take your pilgrimage during Passover. Passover was a time for sacrifices. Passover was a time to have this righteousness, to restore this right relationship with God. Sometimes we had little bitty sins. We were dishonest. We told little white lies. Sometimes we'd have really big sins. We maybe had gotten to a fight. Maybe we said something inappropriately. We cheated somebody. And so we have little sins, we have big sins. Little sins, you would have pigeons or doves that you would offer for a sacrifice. Big sins, it would be oxen or sheep or goats. But living in first century Israel, you weren't very wealthy. So many times, if you were going to have a several day, if not a several month journey to Jerusalem to offer the sacrifice, it was going to cost everything that you had for you just to get there. Let alone the sheep or dove or goats or oxen that you would have to offer the sacrifice. So God instituted a way for you to offer a sacrifice without literally having to take your own animals. You would go into the marketplace, and you could find a sheep, or a goat, or a lamb. You would offer the money, you would have your animal, and you would then take it to the priest and offer a sacrifice. On paper, that's a great idea, right? Except now the temple priest said, we can price gouge these puppies. Simple law of supply and demand. Passover, the demand booms through the roof. Right? So we limit the supply. So where normally a dove or a pigeon may just cost you a shekel, well, now it's 5 shekels. You don't have any other animals. You've traveled the weeks or months to get here. So if it's 5 shekels, I know what you're doing is crooked. I know what you're doing is wrong, but my relationship with God is more important than the crookedness. Not only that, but let's say you go through your herds and your flocks, and remember the law is it has to be without spot, without blemish. It has to be perfect. So you go through and you pick out your couple little sheepies or goats or your oxen, and you're feeding them and you're taking care of them the days and weeks or months you travel to get to Jerusalem. And you're offering the sacrifice to the priest. And the priest says this, got bad news for you. You see this right here? It's a blemish. So I understand that you brought your little sheepy. I understand that it cost you money to feed the sheep so it would be here, but I can't offer the sacrifice. But for the right price of just 5 shekels, you can go into the marketplace and buy one that is approved by a temple priest. You know what you call that? Corruption. And Jesus has seen this all through his life. There's another vein that's taking place here. If you know anything about the Middle East, what do we know? That Israel has always been in oppression. That Jerusalem and the Middle East has always been at war. And during the time of Jesus, the captors or the oppressors is the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire traded in what they called the denarius, or more than one denarius would be the denarii. The denarii was about a day's wage. And so that's what you would trade in. That's what you did all your business. That's how you got paid, because Rome supplied all the finances. But in the temple, they didn't trade or do business on the denarius. Why? Because if you have a coin in your pocket, take it out right now. You just reach in your pocket. If you have a coin, take it out. Look at it. Who has a coin? Anybody? Like, boy, this is group participation. Anybody? Okay, think back. What if you look at a quarter? Who's on the quarter? Washington. If you have a nickel, who's on the nickel? Jefferson. Who has a penny? Lincoln, right? You look at it, and so the reason why you didn't do temple business with the denarius is because that, my friends, is a graven image. On the shekel, do you know what they would have? They would have pictures of plants. They believed that the shekel would have been the most pure metallic coin that was out there. Another instance for corruption. Why? You would go to the money changer. And you have to get your money changed from denarius into shekels, because you have to go and buy your animals in shekels. And so they would say, okay, here's the deal. Give me 4 denarii. Give me 4 days worth of your wage. I'll give you 1 shekel. Corruption. It's frustration. Because you long to have a right relationship with God, and the men chosen by God to offer the sacrifices, to offer the purification rituals, are corrupt. So during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, what happens? I believe it was a perfect storm. It would have been in Holy Week. If you look at Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they say it was right after Jesus came on Palm Sunday, waving the palm branches. Hosanna, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of... He is our Messiah, Yeshua. God saves through him. And he walks into the temple, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and he sees this yeast, and what does he do? BAM! It's my Father's house. It is a house of prayer. And you, corrupt priests, are turning into a den of robbers. Now the Sadducees and the Pharisees get angry at him. Why? Because he's busting up their corruption. If you didn't know how it worked, all of a sudden you start going, oh yeah, that's the reason we have money changers. And that's the reason why I have to buy a sheep and an ox and a goat that's 10 times as expensive when I come to the temple. March 5th, this Wednesday, is what we call Lent. It's Ash Wednesday, it's the start of Lent. 46 days from Easter. During Lent, many times we choose to go out, to go without something. We look and say, what can I do in my life to give it up? What can I sacrifice in preparation for the sacrifice of what Christ did for me? To me, it is a Gentile reminder of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. How can we get rid of the corruption? How can we get rid of something that we love more than God? Obviously, it was important what Jesus did. Or else why did the authors take time? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Jesus flipped the tables in preparation for Passover. To hit the reset button. The Feast of Unleavened Bread was to hit the reset button. To say, God, help me, let me know, what do I need to give up? What's the things of my life that become more important than you. Here's my challenge for you. Wednesday starts Ash Wednesday, March 5th, 46 days from Easter. And as a church, as a body of believers, this is what I feel compelled to do. I think this is what we should do this year. If you have your cards, everybody, I want you to give you an index card on the way in. Pull up your index card. Everybody take out your index card. Because this is what I want you to do, and this is what I'm going to do. We're going to end with this song called Blessed Be Your Name. And during this song, I pray that you will write down something on this index card that you're going to be willing to go without.